The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ. Chip is away on an appointment that was important to him in the Boston area. So today I'd like to introduce and welcome Collin Dias, my guest co-host.
CJ, thank you for having me on.
Oh, not a problem.
Thank you to the viewers at home for listening. I always watch the show, CJ.
Good.
I'm a big fan of the show, and I'm happy you could have me on.
Well, we're getting out there. We're getting old out here in the matter of shows. I think we're going on to our 10th season, if that's what you want to call them.
Hopefully we go for a few more seasons.
I hope so too. Let me ask you something. What did you think about the $150,000 settlement for calling a city employee retard?
So I just saw that news article this morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my initial reaction would be, I think the city got lucky. It's not a lot more. What took place to that individual who was bullied was disgraceful, was shameful, and I'm happy the school committee was finally able to implement some policy to make sure this doesn't hopefully happen in the future.
Yeah, it should have never gotten to this point where they had to issue new policies that never existed. I mean, we have a problem with bullying in our schools right now. We're complaining. You've seen the videos. I've seen the videos. They're posted all over social media.
Yes.
Parents are complaining. They just had a standout at Government Center.
Yes.
In regards to, pulling together the community in regards to bullying. Yet there was no bullying policy in place for school employees.
For staff.
Yeah.
And I think that's hypocritical, first of all.
Exactly.
And not only is it hypocritical, I think it speaks to the point where you want a lesser arena of bullying in our schools, but we don't have a top-down approach to it. You know, it's very hypocritical that we want less bullying between the students in our schools. I mean, that's what everyone wants, of course, but then you have a superintendent that was allowed to run amok in a school department for years and years, and there was an old school committee with, I believe, a weakened administration without leadership that allowed him to stay in power. And this is what happens when you don't have leadership, you don't have the appropriate authorities in place to keep people in check.
And that's the administration we have now. It's the same weak administration. You know, whether you like or dislike Paul is irrelevant. I mean, the fact is that when the rubber hit the road, he recused himself from everything. And I have a problem with that because he recuses himself because his brother is the director of human resources, but every hire, he doesn't recuse himself.
Can I speak to that for 1 second?
Go ahead.
So, and I just mentioned this myself at a school committee meeting, and I was censored. But anyways,
what's new?
I'll get into that. But what you just mentioned, so you have the mayor who recused himself. He was told to recuse himself by a state ethics commission for anything to do with the superintendent. His brother is the HR director. His nephew is a vice principal at Laterno. And he does that. And if he has the letter, it's okay. You know, we can give our opinion, but if he has the letter there, I mean, it's not really necessarily doing the wrong thing. Except after that superintendent is gone, the mayor thought it was okay, he could not listen to that memo anymore. So then he votes on matters pertaining to the new superintendent, Maria Ponce. He votes to take the interim tag off. He votes on matters relating to her salary, attends executive sessions related to her employment and contract negotiations. He does all that right afterwards, and then the budget comes up, CJ. And when the budget, this year's fiscal year 23 budget for the schools comes up, out of nowhere, Attorney Assad advised the mayor, Mimi Larrabee, but mainly the mayor, to recuse himself from the salary of the superintendent, to not vote on that matter out of nowhere, even though he was already doing it. So on one point, you have a mayor who, during election season, will, follow the rules, follow policy, but when the election season's over, he doesn't. So I asked the question during a school committee meeting. I wrote it in a letter. Is the mayor under what was or is under an ethics investigation? I think that was fair, since the randomness of him following the rules again. It was censored, of course. Of course. So I asked to follow up in person at a future meeting, but I think it speaks to the point is that we need to be more transparent with the community. We have a mayor who's going to jail today for ethical.
Finally.
But it speaks to the point where it's not. If we're going to hold one mayor accountable, we have to hold everyone accountable.
I agree 100%. And not only our mayor, but our city council and our school committee.
And yes, our government in general.
Exactly. I mean, because if you remember, under Malone, we had 4 school committee members: Mark Costa, Josh Hetzler, Tom Corey, and Mimi Larrabee, who is still a school committee member, which I don't understand how. Obviously, the people of Fall River were stupid in this issue, who supported Malone and his behavior by saying, no, we're not going to suspend him, we're not going to fire him. They should have never done that. That's something they should have never done. I know we're rehashing an old story, but for it to come out today the way it did.
Yeah, we're talking about it because of the news that came out today with one of the settlements. It's okay to rehash.
And as you said, $150,000, that was chump change. That was chump change.
I wonder if the rest of them are going to be like that.
You have one that's a civil rights violation.
I know you also have one that's in federal court. I don't know if it's the same one.
That was for that's a civil rights violation and a First Amendment violation. And we won't even get into the teacher who went to arbitration and got her job back with all the back pay because she has a lawsuit, I believe, still. So this is all going out there, and because of Paul, and I have to blame the administration. I have to blame the mayor. The buck stops with him.
This is the same person, and I get asked this a lot, and I mention this a lot. Why are we so critical on him? He's the person who ran on full-time leadership. The buck stops with him, a fully transparent government. And when you run on those high titles, you have to be held highly accountable when something happens.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that we didn't have. We didn't have people holding him accountable. And those of us who were holding him accountable got vilified until we came out being right, as usual. With the Jasiel situation, when he was elected, I had all the documents. I had everything. I handed all of that stuff over. And it showed that his Snow Owl app, just like all his other companies and programs, were fake. But nobody wanted to believe that. I was told I hated him, I was no good, I was jealous.
Me too.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it to you, because we were in the same boat.
Good times.
Yeah, good times, such good times. And we came out with it, and nobody would cover that stuff. I mean, the Herald News didn't cover it. Our own station here didn't cover it. WSAI didn't cover it. Nobody covered it because everyone thought Jasiel was the child, the golden child. And all of a sudden, they don't get him on Snow Owl altogether. They get him on the marijuana issue, which I still have a problem with because several letters of non-opposition that he gave are still valid. And I know one is being given out now. Okay. So I know that one is they've got a license and they're opening very shortly.
Were they? And I'm sure, what's the state issuer of the licenses?
Cannabis Control Commission.
Cannabis Control Commission. I'm sure they've launched investigations into this. I know they have, and they asked for the federal evidence to back it up. I'm sure if, I can understand, I'm going to take the approach, I can understand, if these people weren't indicted or if they didn't do anything criminally wrongdoing, you want to make a living for yourself? I can understand that, of course.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with that.
What I do have an issue with is and I'll be frank with you, one of these, the one in the South End, who gave that big donation to the Legal Defense Fund in return for the letter of non-opposition. Right. What's their name? I'm trying to think of their name. In the South End, the one with all the traffic issues. anyways.
Oh, you mean Northeast
Alternatives.
Yeah.
They were able to give a big donation, and I thought that was extremely unethical. And we should have made a statement as a city. We should have pulled their license.
Well, we don't have the right to pull their license. We could have pulled their letter of non-opposition before the license was issued. That's the problem. Only the Cannabis Control Commission can pull it. Plus, Northeast Alternatives has taken advantage of the fact that they paid an impact fee to the city, and that didn't include all the police officers that they had to put out there for traffic control because of that issue. And I firmly believe that the Cannabis Control Commission and our state legislators need to change the law so that the cities can charge a bigger impact fee, especially in cases where there might be traffic issues, or change the law so that the business's impact fee does not affect potential other costs, such as private duty police to handle traffic issues or security issues. And we can't be on the hook for all of that.
I think the city in general has an issue when it comes to zoning and placing businesses where there's going to be high traffic. And when you spoke about traffic, we have one of the busiest traffic restaurants coming to Fall River in the next few months, Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
And that was a place, and I personally love Chick-fil-A, love the food, happy it's coming. I'm not happy with the location. I think and I mention this now because I think we're going to talk about this in a few months. I think it's going to be bigger news than what we think.
It's going to be a nightmare.
It's going to be an absolute nightmare. The Boulevard, Plymouth Avenue is going to be a mess down there, and I hope they did a thorough traffic study. I hope they have plans, and I'm sure, I know I'm being a little sarcastic, but I hope they put the plans in place, probably didn't, that they can rectify this issue before it becomes an issue.
Here's my prediction. I've seen where the restaurant is located. I've seen how much parking has been allocated for the restaurant. I've seen that they're going to have a drive-through for that restaurant. Now picture this. There's one road behind the back of that parking area.
Stafford Road?
No, the one road in the parking area.
Yes.
They have that one service road in the back there, which goes all the way around the parking area. The trucks use it.
I recall, yes.
The trucks use
Vaguely,
it.
Yes.
That's for trucks. That's been created for the trucks usages to get to Market Basket, and they're going to see that lined up both ways with traffic. I firmly believe that you're going to see the traffic trickle out to Rhode Island Avenue, Mariano Bishop Boulevard, and you're going to see lines on the Route 24 off-ramp. I firmly believe you're going to see that.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see the lines coming in from Tiverton. It's going to be a nightmare.
It's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
It's going to be a nightmare. It really is. And no matter which way you go, you're going to get stuck in the traffic. Stafford Road, which already has a school, so between 7 and 9 in the morning and between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, traffic is terrible there. It's terrible. Picture it with a Chick-fil-A. Imagine what that traffic's going to be like, because that school is right behind South Coast Plaza.
Yes.
It's right behind it. That's Anthony Street. And all that traffic that the parents create, they park all along the street. We're going to have a mess. We're going to have a mess. I'm not against Chick-fil-A coming. I'm not against new business. But really, like you said, we need to start doing traffic studies.
It's going to create a lot of traffic to the area, and that's not necessarily bad either, but except you're putting it in a place where there's already a lot of traffic, and I don't think the roads were meant for that much traffic, to be honest. I mean, you have Chick-fil-A's, you go out of town, you go to Seekonk, you go to Plymouth. I'll just have Chick-fil-A in Plymouth. You have Chick-fil-A's in next to their marketplaces, but their roads are huge. Those are like 3-lane, basically highways that you can get off and get on. They're meant for that sort of traffic. Here in Fall River, you're putting a Chick-fil-A in an area that's really not meant for it, and I don't think they really thought that.
Plus, they just put a Chipotle on the other side, which has I don't know how much traffic that's going to generate.
I don't think that would create.
But when you've got Aldi's, Ocean State Job Lot, and now Chipotle on the other side, you've got Market Basket, Five Below. You got a sandwich shop. You got all kinds of Staples, and now you're going to have a Chick-fil-A in there. And as it stands right now, without the Chick-fil-A, you run into traffic just trying to get out of there or get in there.
Yes.
And that's without the Chick-fil-A. So imagine what it's going to be like with the Chick-fil-A, because the traffic is terrible there, Go through there on a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon, and you're waiting to get out, to leave.
I've been stuck in the traffic.
Yeah, you get stuck in it, and it's worse than Boston traffic at times. It really is.
That's true.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, because they're going to, obviously it's on private property, so the police can't do anything about it. They can only handle the traffic that's out on the street.
On a boulevard, yes.
And that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be a problem.
I wonder if you're going to see, as you did with the Durfee traffic at CVS, you're going to see details being placed inside the marketplace.
If they pay
and
for
I'm
it.
sure, and I'm sure, you know what? I'm not being very careful with my words here, but I'm sure there are the connections, especially people associated with that marketplace, that they can, get some police detail inside to manage traffic.
Of course.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement too. I mean, just look at what's going on. I mean, everything is above board, right, in Fall River? We don't do anything questionable, do we?
No. You think today's the day we can bring up the most recent story? That
We are. I was just going. That's why I brought it up. That was our lead-in. As we know, and has been confirmed, John Perry has been suspended. He's not on leave. He has been suspended for 2 weeks with pay, pending investigation.
What's the difference between on leave and suspended?
On leave, there's nothing going on. I can tell my boss I need to go on leave for 2 weeks for medical reasons, for personal reasons. Being suspended means you don't have anything to do with the city. You have no job responsibilities. You can't do it. But he's being paid. But he's still being paid. And that's actually required.
That's a procedure. That's what I'm about to say. I have no issue, and I'll explain where I personally have the issue with the suspension. I don't have an issue with the suspension itself. If it's a procedural issue that we were talking about before the show, and you have to give him pay, especially just for 2 weeks. I understand we got to follow all the laws.
That's the law, correct.
What I am confused of is this issue has been going on for weeks. The mayor knew about these issues at least for a few weeks. If not, I personally believe he knew about it for much longer. And all of a sudden, he gets suspended yesterday or the day before. He didn't get suspended 2 weeks ago. If you know the information, if you hear the allegation, you hear the information of this wrongdoing with our city resources, you take the lead, you take the initiative, your full-time leadership, and you suspend him right away. You don't wait multiple weeks to see, let's wait until our former mayor goes to jail so the headlines they crash in together. We don't wait until, let's get our ducks in a row before we suspend him. That's not leadership, and that is fishy in my opinion.
It's fishy in my opinion too, because guess what? Isn't it amazing that they waited until after the snow season to suspend him?
Again, I'm surprised. As soon as the mayor found out about these issues, he should have suspended him right away and started the investigation then. We don't know how long the mayor knew about these issues.
Right.
As soon as he found out about them, that's what I would have done. That's what any sound person would have done who wants to do what's best for the city, would have suspended him right away and launched the investigation. And a second issue I also have is that this is an internal investigation. I saw a Herald News article today saying that the city administrator is going to get help from an outside attorney, and I have absolutely nothing against the city administrator. I have nothing. I personally like him. I professionally like most of the decisions he's made, and I like most of the comments he's made at city council meetings. Not all of them, most of them. But this should be. But the amount of gravity of this situation and how long Mr. Perry's been there, and how politically connected he is. This should be an outside investigation. The city should have absolutely nothing to do with this. They should follow the principle they did with Superintendent Malone. They had an outside investigator come in and do a report, and the same exact circumstance should happen in this situation.
Yeah, good luck on that. Good luck on that. But I agree with you. We should have an outside investigator. Just like I believe we should have an outside investigator for the police department.
Yes.
And the mayor's not handling that either. And he keeps saying, I've got a chief there that's going to be able to handle it. I've got a chief there that can handle it. I'm not going to tell him, I'm not going to micromanage. That's baloney, okay? Obviously, this has gone through now, 3 chiefs that we've had this problem?
Yes.
3 chiefs, and nothing's been done. We just keep adding more egg on our face, okay? By this time,
4.
we should have an omelet.
Oh my gosh, not omelets, but No, you're right. And again, it speaks to what we were talking about before. We have a leadership issue with this administration. The administration never wants to, we hear full-time leadership, the buck stops with me. Words, CJ. I think everyone knows at this point, but not everyone. But I think us and a good portion of the city knows it's just words. And it's just hearsay, it's election talk. And he doesn't put the city before himself sometimes. And
Well, Chip and I believe that he is not a mayor of the people, he's a mayor of the children. Because everything he does is for the children. Movies, skateboard parks.
it's ceremonial.
Yeah, it's all ceremonial. The one thing he complained about on Cliff Ponte's campaign was the ceremonial mayor. And that's all he's been, is a ceremonial mayor. This suspension of John Perry, I think, is the biggest decision he's made so far. Even with the ARPA funds, he doesn't make that decision.
I don't even think he made, personally, I don't think he made a decision. I'm sure he got advice on to make a decision. But
And even with the ARPA funds, he doesn't make the decision. He lets Ken Fiola make that decision.
No, here's the thing with the ARPA funds. That's a good, I want to bring that up real quick. You have an administration who has its ARPA committee, handpicked by the mayor, there's no approval by the city council, no checks and balances. ARPA committee, again, handpicked by the mayor, has secretive meetings, not public meetings, not televised meetings, secret meetings, to decide where $70 million is going to be allocated. Not the city council, not our elected legislative body who has the power of appropriations and allocations of funds. No, you have this secretive committee, like dog and pony committee, I like to call it, and you're doing the community a disservice by doing that, because you don't see the discussions, the deliberations, and where these funds are really going towards, and how you can justify them sometimes.
I agree with you 100%. And because he set it up as an advisory committee, it's not subject to 30A. It's not subject to the open meeting law.
No, if an and I know we've talked about this in I think on Gene's show. An advisory committee would be subject to the open meeting law if there was some sort of ordinance behind it,
Correct.
direction of the city council, or there was some sort of basically writing behind it. But this is all just handpicked by the mayor. What I would love to see the city council do is create this ARPA committee into ordinance, and they would automatically be subject to the open meeting law.
But the city council created this monster, and that's what people forgot, and a lot of people have forgotten. I called them. I called city councils. I sent them emails, and I told them, do not approve that ARPA funds. Look it over carefully. Read what he's saying. He's telling you that not only are you going to approve acceptance, but you're allowing him to expend the money. Now, when we get the second payout, which is going to be coming up shortly, if the city council does the same thing again, shame on them. Shame on them. Because every other city and town in this Commonwealth, the ARPA funds are governed by the city council.
Yes.
They control the funds. That is their job. The selectmen do it, the city council does it.
The mayor pulled a quick one on the city council.
Exactly.
Remember that easement a few years ago?
Oh, yeah, I remember that too. And he's been pulling it ever since. Michelle Dion's been the only one standing up for it, saying, no, we can't do this. You're saying to accept and expend these grant monies. No, we need to have a say in whether or not how this grant money is expended. And the mayor doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep absolute control. He's like a little monster dictator.
He is. And I agree with you 100%. And we always talk about what's next. I, again, hope the city council listens to this. Do not approve and expend. Don't give the mayor absolute total authority to spend these funds. You need to hold him accountable. You need to make this ARPA committee into ordinance so we can see open meetings of this ARPA committee. And I think we just, spoke to the issues. I mean, I don't know what's next with this. I know you have, I know there's some questions about the ARPA, the allocation to BCEDC. I know, again, nothing really personal against the program, but I was talking to some city residents about it last night. I have an issue that we are giving public dollars, millions of it, to a private entity, because once you take your public dollars from your public entity and move it to a private entity, that hides all transparency.
Exactly.
I actually asked. So I finally got the information I asked for, or most of it at least. I asked the administration for the individual opera.
The grant money.
The grant money, the expenditures that were made, and what businesses received the monies. Did this weeks ago, and then we all got it at the same time, but weeks ago. And the administration told me to go to BCEDC.
Yep.
Here's the thing with that. BCEDC does not have to listen to me. The city has to listen to me. There are public records law. BCEDC is a private entity. I can't just take their word for it because that they're going to be fully honest and transparent because they don't have to be under the law. So I don't think I would love to see any grant program done more in-house. I know I would personally trust the CDA office. I know they do a great job. I personally have confidence in their office there.
Yeah, Mike does a good job.
He does a great job. I'd love to see his office get the resources and the staffing to administer these grants because they're not a private entity that is in cahoots with the mayor.
Correct. And they're subject to open meetings, and they're subject to public records requests.
Yes.
But while we're on BCEDC, do you remember when Jasiel threw Ken Fiola and Froed out of government center?
I do.
Okay, cut off their money right at the knees. The money was cut off.
I do.
And what happened? Ken Fiola was almost bankrupt. He was almost in foreclosure on his building on South Main Street, and then we got Paul Coogan. And shortly after Paul Coogan comes in, Ken Fiola gets back all his money, and he's flush with cash, and his building is no longer in jeopardy.
And to back up what you said, and I'm not trying to pick on or attack private businesses, even though but these private businesses have millions of dollars of our public money, so
Exactly.
I am. This to back up what you just said about them almost being bankrupt. If you look at their tax returns, I think for fiscal year 19, 20, and maybe even the previous one, they're in a deficit. And who else is in a deficit? Our city.
Yeah.
And I don't think that gets talked about enough.
No, we have a huge structural deficit in the city, and this mayor is creating more. And what he promised, and we don't have a lot of time, but what he promised us with the debt exclusion was, 7 or 8 years. And he even said it again. Well, in 8 years we'll have all this school bonds coming off. Yeah, but we're creating more bonds. Just look at Durfee. Okay, not only is that money in the debt exclusion, but the school committee and Ken Pacheco are trying to get more money out of the city for fields, athletic centers, and
they already have.
Exactly, and those are bonds. So how do we get off the bonding roller coaster? It's ridiculous.
Very quickly, I have one question. How much do you think this administration is going to charge the average homeowner a month?
Well, according to him, it's going to be $115, $120 per quarter or per year. Per year. Okay. Now, if it's $120 per year, that's only $30 a quarter. But we don't know. Plus, that's Mary Sahadi said this, if you remember. That is a 30-year bond, and the voters voted for 30 years. So the city can collect that money for 30 years without a problem. So that could, in essence, help pay for Diamond, because they're putting the money in to pay off the Diamond, the Durfee debt, but they need $6 million for the Diamond debt. So again, we're between a rock and a hard place, and finances are where we lose everything. Yeah. So it always gets to be crazy.
So we had so much to talk about today.
I know.
Wish we had more time.
That's what we always say on the show. We need an hour because we never have enough time. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, this is the weekend. Have a good weekend. It's supposed to be half and half weekend, so enjoy it. Be safe, be angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.